Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ghostly Stories brought to you by Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio. We are on YouTube Live, and I have a special guest host with me tonight. William couldn't make it again.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ghostly Stories brought to you by Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio. We are on.
There you are. Okay. I forget to do that, and it does that to me every time. Anyway, as I was saying, a very good friend of mine is coming on to help me out tonight, and if that person wishes to be named, I will do so. If not, I will not do so.
You can tell them who it is, Bubbles.
Bubbles, I got you, Bubbles. This is my sister and my very good friend Cindy Jean-Pierre, who runs WCJB Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. A lot of good shows over there. If you haven't been, go. Just saying.
That was so sweet of you.
Okay, Bubbles.
No, you're Bubbles.
I'm going to get into this thing. People over here in the chat room are probably waiting. Invisible Hands, and this is not the name of this story, folks. It didn't have a name, so I gave it one. Because this was part of the story, so I just figured it made a good name. About 10 years ago, my 3-year-old son and I moved into a new house. Well, it was new to us, but it was actually a very old house. The inside of the house always seemed a bit darker and a little colder than it should be. I had noticed that the first time I went to view the house, but it was summer. I figured it would save on cooling costs. Soon after we moved in, a friend of mine came by. We were sitting and talking for a few minutes, but she seemed uncomfortable the whole time. Then I saw in her face that something in the other room caught her attention. Her eyes got big. She said, "I have to go." I asked her what was wrong, but she said she didn't want to tell me. I kept after her because her reaction was kind of freaking me out. On her way out the door, she finally said, "This house is haunted." But she wouldn't tell me what made her think so. Still to this day, 10 years later, she refuses to tell me what she saw. About a week after that night, my 3-year-old son casually asked me who the old lady in the bathroom was. One day I was leaving for work, but once I got to the car, I realized I needed to run back in the house to get something. I walked into the house, and as soon as I got inside, this framed photo on the wall shot off the wall. Now, I don't mean it fell because of some issue with the nail or anything like that. It shot horizontally away from the wall, not vertically down. And it landed on a mosaic table with enough force to break some of the tiles off of it. I felt like whatever was in the house was pissed that I came back in after it thought I had left for the day. After living in the house for about 6 months, I noticed a weird square cut into the boards on the deck. And this is where it gets interesting for a little bit. There was no handle, but I was able to pry it up. The hole was just big enough to fit through, and there was a ladder going down. For some reason, I went down and found myself in what looked like a homemade basement. It was basically just a room dug out of the earth, no constructed walls or stone supports or anything you would expect, if the basement was built with the house. It was very dark, but I could see over in the corner a suspicious looking large stone. It looked like one of those light colored 100-plus-year-old headstones that you see in old cemeteries. Just then, some camel crickets started jumping on me, so I got my, and I won't pronounce it, rear end out of the basement as fast as I could and never went back. Now, this is the part that affected me most and the reason we left the house. One night I was in bed but not yet asleep, laying on my stomach. I heard someone walk into the room. I heard footsteps come from the doorway over to my bed. I didn't realize until later that the fact that I heard the footsteps was weird because the room was carpeted. When the footsteps reached my bed, I felt someone put their hands on my back. Two hands just gently laid flat on my back and kept there. I assumed it was my son. I said, "What are you doing?" But no one answered. I looked up and no one was there. I got up and checked my son's bedroom, but he was in bed asleep. We moved out soon after that. This story is, okay, how do we go here? You know there's something there. Something comes in your room, puts their hands on you, and you look around and nobody's there. They can't leave the room that quick. So obviously, invisible hands belonging to an invisible spirit. Um, one of the things I found really interesting about this story is the basement with the stone in it. Why dig a room underneath a deck and put a stone in the corner? Nothing else in here but a stone that looks like a tombstone. And I'm going to invite CJ to go down in that basement with me, look at the stone. You ready to go?
Your great Aunt Mildred.
Oh, come on.
Look it. I know for a fact that a long time ago they used to bury children that had passed away. There are families that did that back then in the basements and put a grave marker down there. Could have been something like that.
Well, it would have had to have been a specially dug room underneath the deck. And supposedly, I guess they could have buried, a child or something down there and put a headstone in the corner of it. That's possible. Why would you go to that kind of, was the deck always there? Obviously it was, because there was a square there for the opening to go down into this pit. Why go to this length of trouble to dig a room out under your deck and put an opening there and a ladder going down to it? Why not just bury your loved one or something in the backyard? They did that a lot back in the day too.
Well, yeah, but in the wintertime, like under the porch next to the house would be an easy place to dig to be able to bury someone. And, like under a porch or something, it doesn't really freeze too bad in the wintertime. And that's where they used to bury them, or either that or in their basement. Because they didn't have any place to put them other than, there.
I understand it would be easier to dig in a basement if the basement had a dirt floor. But normally these basements are built with the house, as it was stated earlier. Why would you, if you wanted to bury your loved one underneath the porch because it's easier to dig, yeah, I could understand that. It would be very hard to dig under a porch. You don't have much room. Why dig a big old pit like that, like a room? Why not just dig a grave and bury them like that?
Has anybody ever really done any research on it? I mean, this story, what happened there, the history of the house or anything?
If they did, they didn't mention it. Like I said, they didn't even put their name on it. Whoever posted this story where I found it at didn't put a name on it. So I really don't know much about it, except for the fact that it's a little bit weird why you would dig a room under your deck. Why not just dig a grave? It would be a lot easier because you ain't got much room, like I said, if you're digging under a porch or a deck.
Right, unless somebody did a no-no and they were trying to hide it.
Yeah, that's possible. But even then, if they dug a room and they buried the no-no in the room and if they did a no-no, why would they dig a room, number one, and why would they put a marker there for somebody to find, number two?
Guilt? Could be guilt.
Yeah. And, we're going to dig this room under the porch and we're going to bury our no-no in it. And we're going to feel guilty enough that we're going to put a stone in the corner. Now, all that could be feasible. But are we going to feel guilty enough to cut a square out of the deck and put a letter going down there so that everybody can find our no-no?
No, I definitely wouldn't be. No, I would not cut a hole in my deck to go down there and look at it. You know how I am.
For anybody else to go down there and find it is what I'm saying. If it was a no-no. So, and yes, CJ, I have my coffee.
You got your what?
Coffee.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Dark roast with hazelnut, yes.
A little pampered, aren't we? We're being a little pampered here.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I wonder why this person's friend, I mean, she must have saw something really horrendous to not want to tell her what she saw. Now,
That's a possibility. I've seen things that I wouldn't tell anybody I've seen, just for fear of like, whoa, she's gone over the edge.
exactly. And that brings the question to mind, could that have been the no-no under the porch that she saw?
Good question. Holy cow.
And if so, if it was looking really horrific, okay, then you're possibly right about the no-no. Somebody got their head caved in with a shovel or something and then buried in a room under the porch, under the deck. That part we wouldn't be able to know unless the person who saw it would come forward and tell what they saw. But I mean, it's possible that the two could be tied together. Now, she never mentions anything that in the story about her son seeing anything or talking about having spoken with anything. As in a lot of the stories, you have spirits will go to a child and talk to them. Why they go to the child? Because the child is more open. Even a spirit has enough sense to know that children are more open to this kind of thing than adults are in most cases. So why would we have a spirit here who's willing to walk into your room, put their hands on your back like this, but yet your child who is old enough to talk never says anything?
Well, I don't know. I'm a skeptic. I mean, you know how I am. But the thing is that if you believe in a tortured soul, okay, maybe this tortured soul is coming back to tell them, hey, I was murdered. This is what happened. This is where I am. And maybe somebody actually put that hole in the porch because they'd been visited too and wanted to see where this was.
Hey, that's entirely possible. Now, if I was gonna, this is just me here, okay? If I was gonna cut a hole in my deck and go to the trouble to dig out a room big enough to walk around in and bury a body in and put a tombstone in, I would put a trap door on my deck where I cut that hole with a handle and hinges where you can just raise it up, go down the ladder, visit with your loved one, come back up, let the lid down and go on about your business. Now,
Well, if it was buried back, say over a century ago, Mary brought up a good point. Um, she says, I wonder how long it's been there. Well, if it's been there long enough and other families have moved in there, perhaps they were visited, and that's how the hole in the porch happened. Is somebody was told, here's where I am.
very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, she's right.
And she did say that it was a very old house. Who knows at what time the deck was built? Who knows at what time the room was dug? And who knows if there is a grave down there? But I mean, that doesn't make sense why they would dig a room out like that, put a stone in the corner. Okay. The stone has to represent something. So now you remember, CJ, back in our grandparents' day and before, they used to actually dig rooms out like that. They were called root cellars, and they would keep their canned stuff, in there. They didn't have constructed walls and all this stuff. It was just a room dug underneath the house, and it was called a root cellar. And they had a ladder or something going down there to it, and they would go down. They would put their jars of canned stuff down there.
Yep. And that's where they kept their potatoes and their
Yeah,
turnips and carrots and stuff like that.
because it kept longer, because it was cooler in that area, so they would keep longer. Was this possibly at one time a root cellar?
Possibility.
They decided, like you said, it was already there, so it would be pretty easy to dig a grave down there because it would be softer, and they could dig it in the wintertime, like you said, and they could put a stone down there in the corner, and that was their private little one-man cemetery, so to speak.
Right. Right, because anything next to a house or under a house, well, they say that the ground freezes maybe 2 feet to 3 feet in the wintertime.
Right.
But next to a house, it doesn't even freeze that. So if you start digging next to a house or under it, during the winter months, so you would have to think that if this was a murder, it must have taken place in the winter.
Right. And don't get us wrong here, anybody. We're not saying it was a murder, but we're saying it's a possibility. It's always a possibility.
What would be interesting is to look up the history on that house and see who in that vicinity came up missing during that time.
Or, for that matter, if somebody died in the house and could have possibly been buried down there. I mean, if they did that back in those days, because of, like you said, it being easier to dig and and all that stuff, they could have, there might be a record somewhere.
Well, I know personally somebody, if somebody's grandmother buried a child in the basement during the wintertime because they didn't have the money to put the child in a formal grave,
Right.
and it was too hard to dig. And besides, the mother of the child did not want that baby being put in the ground in the middle of winter out in the cold.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility. But also, the mother of that child could have wanted to bury their child there to have them close to them.
That's an absolute possibility.
I mean, there's lots of things we can throw out as far as why there would be a grave there. I would, however, love to be able to research that place and find out if anything out of the ordinary happened.
It would be interesting to investigate that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could make sandwiches.
To be able to go down in that hole with a recorder and stuff and just see if there's, if you could get anything. if you did research on it and you could find out if somebody died, and also you brought up a good point. If they were a poor family, they didn't have the money to hire a funeral home to carry out, and to pay for, a coffin and the services and all that kind of stuff.
Well, back then they didn't. They used their living rooms, their parlors,
As a way,
as as a as an area to lay out the body. They
right?
had most of their funerals at home. And in the middle of winter, I can't imagine, I mean, if you had a shed or a barn, you
Yeah.
could probably store the body there over the winter and then bury it in the spring. But for those that didn't, I mean, what other alternative would there be?
Well, back in those days, it was not against the law to bury your family in your yard or in a place like that. That probably changed whenever funerals became big business in order for them to be able to make the money, to do the burial and the services and all that kind of stuff. They
You know,
used to bury, like I said, they used to bury their family members. They would have their own private little cemetery out back with a little wrought iron fence around it or something. And they would bury their family members on their property there in their backyard or something.
yeah, uh-huh. And when
And
you consider the price of funerals today,
yeah,
who are the stupid ones?
that's what I was getting at. Now it's kind of like big pharma. Okay, funerals have become big business.
Oh, absolutely. $30,000 at the least.
And that's not for the top of the line deal. You cannot bury a person decently for under $15,000-$20,000. And I know because I went through this when my mom passed.
Yeah, I just went through it with my father and it was 60 some odd $1,000.
And in a lot of cases, if you're not of the upper crust, so to speak, you go into debt about as much as you would go in debt buying a freaking house.
Yeah, exactly. And people didn't have that kind of money back then. So it's a
Exactly.
possibility. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with that one.
It just leaves so much question about all of it. I mean, and that's one of the reasons that I picked the story, because it does leave a lot of questions. Why is it down there? And I wish she would have went back down. I mean, I understand why she didn't, but I just wish that she would have went back down there with a flashlight. Number one, to see if there was anything else in that room, period. But number two, to see if there was anything carved on that stone. I would have loved to seen if there was an epitaph carved on that stone.
Did you see what Margaret just said? She said something about you can still bury your family in your backyard today. You just need to set aside a quarter acre and register it.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that. Did you?
No, I didn't either. And is that
Wow.
in all states, or is that just Margaret? Is that just in your state? Where
Quiet.
the little no name cemetery that I took, we got the picture of the lady in red that I showed you. I think probably at one time that's what that was like a small like family cemetery. And it had the little wrought iron fence that went all the way around it, a gate on one end of it. And
Well, Roger, we have a guest.
hello,
I'm going to be putting her through. Hey,
hello, come on. Waiting, waiting.
I are in here. Hold on. Drag her in. Are you there? Hi. Can, can I call you back in about 15? Thank you, sweetie. I'll talk to you in a bit. Bye.
Okay.
Are you still there?
Yeah. I thought
Okay. Yeah, me too, but there's something going on. Oh, I know what it is. This is not, I can't add calls. We're on something other than Skype.
Right. They have to have the live link. Hold on, and I'll put it in the chat room, and that way anybody can. Well, as soon as I find where I'm at here.
Yeah, I'd like to know if Margaret lives, like, does she live in the eastern part of the country, the western part? Because I didn't know you could do anything like that. That's like bury them, have your own plot. That's amazing. I've never heard of that.
No, I don't think they do that anymore.
I live in New York, and I don't think they do it here.
This is the live link that I put in the chat right here. If anybody wants to come on with us, click that link there. She lives in Ohio.
Holy cow. Are you serious? And they do that in Ohio. I've got to check that out. That's amazing.
Really?
Now I'm wondering if they do it in your state or my state.
That's what I'm saying. Do they do that in all the states, or is it just in that state, or like certain particular states that they allow that? Because if that's the case, they just dig a hole back here and throw me in it. I don't care. Save a lot of money.
I'm going to do like they say on Facebook. I'm going to eat a whole bunch of kernel corn and then get cremated.
Yeah, popcorn. I'm gonna eat a couple of cups of popcorn and let them cremate me, and it should be really interesting. Popcorn seeds, kernels, that is. So, anyway, we have a person that saw something in the house that was obviously so terrifying they would not tell the owner what they saw. We have a mysterious room dug under a deck with a cutout for an opening and a ladder going down, and there's a stone down there. I would love to go up there and go down in there with a flashlight and see if there was anything carved on that stone. Just saying. You know me, I go just about anywhere.
Well, the is that did he say that he saw something or he just felt it?
No. I'm assuming that this woman's friend was also another lady. Did not say. She asked her what she saw, and she wouldn't tell her. All she would tell her is that this house is haunted.
Oh, okay.
So apparently she saw something, and I'm just assuming that she saw something so terrible she did not want to tell her friend what she saw. Maybe because, like you said, she might go off the deep end, And if you saw something, and this is a question I want to ask you, okay, if I bought a house and I had a 3-year-old child in this house, and you came over to visit and you saw something in my house, and it was that freaky and terrible that you did not want to tell me what you saw, but you would be willing to tell me that my house was haunted. If you saw something that terrible that you were afraid to tell me what it was, would you not tell me you need to get your 3-year-old child out of this freaking house?
Yes, like yesterday.
Just asking here. If it was that bad, if you can't tell me about it, how could you leave me and my child in this house?
Well, I saw something one time, okay? And I don't know if I told you, but I was brushing my hair in the bathroom, and the door was open, and across the hallway was another door. And it was probably like 2 in the morning. I was getting ready for, to go to bed. And I happened to glance over to my left, and I looked down, and there was this thing that went under the door that looked like black silk. I've never seen anything in my life, ever, ever, because I just never have. But I saw that, and I didn't tell anybody about that for the longest time, but it was there.
What you saw, you said it looked like black silk.
It looked like a black mist or a black. The only way you can think of it is if you have sheer black nylon and it just wafted underneath the door.
Okay, so and now you said the door was open, right? You could see the door across the hallway or whatever,
Which, yeah, and the door across the hallway was closed.
and it came
And
out from under that door.
it just came like down the hallway, around the corner, and underneath this door. And it just kind of wafted like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. If you could take black silk and pull it along the floor, that's what it looked like.
And it went under the door,
Yes. Yeah.
the closed door, I'm saying.
Yes.
So obviously, whatever it was that went into that room.
Yeah.
Was there anyone else awake or up at that time?
No, I was just finishing up. You know how it is with me in the shows.
Right.
2, 3 in the morning, I'm getting done.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the weird part is nobody's been able to ever sleep in that particular room.
That's the one that we've talked about before.
Yes, very uncomfortable room. But I did see that going in there, and that is my only paranormal anything ever that I've seen personally.
Where's a camera when you need one?
Yeah, for real.
Anyway, it is interesting, but that's what I'm saying about this person here. How can you, and I don't want to put anybody down, that's not my thing, but how can you call yourself a friend of somebody and you see something in their house that terrible that you can't tell them what you saw? But
There's something wrong with that scenario.
yeah, but that you can't tell them, hey, you need to get your child out of this house. I just saw something bad enough. I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. To me, that would be like, that would have set the red flag off right there. Well, you're going to tell me my house is haunted, but it's something that's so bad you can't tell me what you saw. That would be the point where I would start digging automatically. I want to know what's going on. What could she have seen in my house? I would start digging through anything I could find for information on whatever happened in that area, that house, that, and especially after I found this room under the deck, with the ladder and all that and the stone in the bottom. I would be at the library like, give me something on this house. All the information you have on this house, I want it.
I'd be a little more aggressive than that. If it was my child that was involved, I would be like sitting on the person who was not telling me. You better tell me right now. This is my child we're talking about.
Whoever this person is now, she said on the initial walkthrough, it felt cold and it was darker than it should be. So immediately, she felt something wasn't right. But she's like, oh, well, that'll help with cooling costs in the summer. And you don't want to automatically assume that you just stepped into a haunted house because it's a little colder and it's a little darker than other houses, okay? especially older houses are kind of like that. I don't care what kind of light you got; they're usually dim. Uh, but after all this stuff, if I bought this house, I would be like getting hold of my realtor. What did you not tell me?
Yeah, there's a law that says they have to disclose if they know.
Exactly. And of course, they're going to say, well, I don't know anything, But that would be one of the things I would do. What did you not tell me about this house? Did you know of anything that happened at this house, that you didn't tell me? I would go to the library and I would start digging. I would even ask for help. Look, I want all the information I can find on my house. There's something not right about it. And I would go through anything and everything from the time it was built to try to see if there was anything that happened in or around that house. And from the last story that we talked about on here Monday, it's possible for a spirit to pass away, not necessarily at your house, but somewhere not far away and come to your house. So, is it possible that this thing you saw came from somewhere else? It's very possible. Everything is possible. And when you have no information on it, anything is possible. Okay? You have nothing to verify anything. I just think that the whole room under the deck and the stone and whatever this person saw that she was afraid to tell puts a really dark aura around this house to me. Like, I want to know, what happened here. Who's buried, if anyone, in that homemade basement with the stone in it. What she saw in the other room. I want to know what she saw. I'd love to be able to get a hold of that person and say, what did you actually see? Tell me,
Yeah, that'd be interesting. How come
Anyway.
I'm hearing me?
I'm sorry?
Why am I hearing me?
I do not know. You got the chat room open?
No.
Okay, well, you were seeing what Meg was putting in the chat room.
Let's see.
If you have,
Oh, yeah.
okay, if you have the chat room open, you have to pause the player in the chat room or it will do that.
No, I've got the player paused.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know. I have no clue what you're hearing.
Okay.
Anyway, giving you a heads up at 6:42 if you need to do your thing.
Yeah, I've got to get out of here. You know what I got to do.
Right.
Going to work. But anyways, thank you, there's Cupcake, for having me on the show with you, my little brother.
Well, thank you for coming and helping me. I don't know what happened to Mr. Williams, but
he's probably busy writing things on Facebook.
yeah, democratical things.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. All right, Roger. I will talk to you soon. Okay. I'll see you up in chat in a while.
Okay, I shall be along shortly. Thank you so much for coming and helping me out.
Yeah, Margaret, Mary, it was good to see you in the chat there. Take care, guys. And Margaret, thanks for that information. That was cool. I'm going to check that out.
Oh, yeah, I want to find out about that too.
Yeah. Okay, Roger. I'll talk to you in a bit.
All right, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, peeps. CJ had to run. She's got things to do. Anyway, I'm probably going to shut this down a little bit early, but I'm going to go ahead and talk for a few more minutes here. I would love to hear opinions from Mary, Meg, anybody in the chat room over here that has an opinion. What do you think of the basement thing is? Do you think it's was actually dug for to put a grave in, or Possibly, maybe it was a fruit seller or something converted into a private grave slot or what. I mean, I just think that's really interesting that they did that and they cut a hole in the deck to go down in there, and there's a ladder where you can go in and look around or what have you. But very interesting scenario. And I still want to know what that woman saw that was that terrifying that she couldn't talk about it. I think if I saw something that terrible, I would tell my friend, you know, you need to get your child and you need to leave this house. There's something really bad in here. But anyway, CJ has a ghost voice. Okay. Okay. I think yes, that's kind of what I was saying. If a mother had a child pass and they wanted to keep that child close to them, they could bury them like in a place like that. It's right there at the house. You know, you can go out on the deck, go down and visit, you know, whatever you wanted to do. Makes a lot of sense. Body there possibly hidden from grave robbers. That is a very unique thought, Mary. I don't think I'd ever thought of that one. But how would they get by with that if they were grave robbers and there was a house there and people lived in the house? How could they dig a room down there and bury a body in it? And if it was grave robbers, why would they go to the trouble of burying a body under somebody's house and putting a stone up? I mean, just a thought, but if grave robbers had a body that they were selling to uh, the doctors back in those days, you know, to do research on or whatever, I wouldn't think that they would go to that much trouble to hide the body. They would more than likely, you know, have dug up the body and took it straight to wherever they were selling them at. And now, the only two things that makes possible sense is that whoever lived in the house either dug the room and buried a loved one down there, or it was already there and they just used it for a convenient, as CJ said, in the wintertime, an easy way to dig and bury a loved one. Or somebody in the house killed another somebody and buried them in there. But then again, why put a stone up? Because they felt guilty. I don't think it don't make a lot of sense. So I'm kind of going to want to go with a family member being buried there. They put a stone up down there. And I would love to see if there was anything carved on the stone. That would be really unique. I'd love to be able to go there myself and go down in there and look. And also be able to do an investigation in that house and see if I could communicate with whatever that woman saw. It's been a really unique story. Like I said, those are a couple of the things that that make it interesting is why this person, this friend, couldn't tell the owner what they saw, but yet they didn't tell them that they need to leave the house, and also who or what is buried in that room under the deck, and what that stone has to do with it, if it has anything carved on it, or it was just a stone that was put there to mark the spot by a family member, or if it was a murder situation, I couldn't see them putting a stone there marking the spot saying, yeah, I buried them right here. So more than likely a family member was buried there, maybe a child. They put a stone there, and it may not have anything on it, but they wanted to put a stone there to mark the grave. You know, I mean, back in the day, two people that had deformed children hid them out of sight. Yes, they did, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense neither. If they dug a pit and they put a ladder down to it under the deck, and they cut an opening there, this child, if they were old enough and able, could climb this ladder and knock this opening out and come out of there and take off, you know, or whatever. Now, I do know what you're talking about. They used to lock them up in the attic or something like that, you know, where they couldn't. They figured they couldn't harm themselves, or they didn't run the risk of any of their socialites seeing that they had a deformed child. And sadly enough, that was the situation in that time. If you had gave birth to a child that was deformed and not normal looking and whatever, if you were high up on the social ladder, so to speak, you would not want anything to tarnish that. Okay, so you would hide this what you would assume horrible looking child out of sight, like lock them in the attic where they can't come down and surprise you when some of your social guests might be there. You know, keep you out of sight, bring you a plate of food, you know, maybe have a slot in the door, you know, shove it through the door, underneath the door, or open the door, you know, set the plate in there and whatever, lock the door back and go on about your business. Those were bad times and bad things, and I'm sure they really did happen. But I don't think in that situation. So we shall leave this story tonight, folks, with still questions that we cannot answer. Whoever submitted this story, if I had your name, I would have gave you kudos. It was a very interesting story. Since I do not have your name, whoever submitted this story, I really find it very interesting, and I appreciate that you shared it where we was able to talk about it. It's a really interesting story. Until then, Friday we shall return with something else interesting. Thank you, Mary, Meg, everybody else listening in or watching that's not chatting with us. We appreciate all of you very much, and we will be back Friday with another ghostly story. Until then, au revoir, arrivederci, and so long and good night.